Hi, I'm Lara Bennett, and you're listening to Highway Butterfly, The Stories of Neal Casal. Neal was a gifted singer, songwriter, musician, and friend to many. He released 14 albums as a solo artist and collaborated on countless projects with other musicians. After his passing in 2019, his friends and family created the Neal Casal Music Foundation to provide instruments and music lessons to students in New York and New Jersey, and to support organizations that offer musicians mental health care. One of the featured projects of the newly formed foundation is the tribute album, Highway Butterfly, The Songs of Neal Casal, a sprawling 41-song collection bringing together a galaxy of rock and roots luminaries. We've asked the contributing musicians to share their memories of Neal and their stories of making the record. Highway Butterfly, The Songs of Neal Casal is out on November 12th. Pre-order the album and learn more about the Neal Casal Music Foundation at nealcasalmusicfoundation.org. Hello, I'm Lara, and I'm here with Eric D. Johnson, aka Fruit Bats. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thanks. So, Eric, you are an incredibly prolific musician, songwriter, and film scorer, and you've performed as Fruit Bats for over 20 years. You released music as EDJ, and you're also a part of Bonnie Light Horseman. And Neal is all over so many of your albums, adding his signature touch, and he plays on at least 4 of your records that I'm aware of. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, let me think. Tripper. I think Tripper was where he first came in. He played on my sort of self-titled veering off from Fruit Bats album EDJ. He's on there. He was on absolutely 4 exactly. Wow, you counted well. I needed to think about it.
And it's usually a couple songs on each too, I think, which is really cool. So how did you first meet Neal?
I think it had to be through Tom Monahan, who I don't know if you've spoken to him on here, but he and Neal were very close and kind of like weirdly like separated at birth, twins in some ways, not physically, but emotionally, both kind of like Southern California guys, but from New Jersey, who sort of had this like hybrid vibe. I think they were the exact same age too. But anyways, through Tom, who had produced most of my records for the past decade and is one of my closest friends. And I think his Neal thing was through Beachwood Sparks from back in the day. So I think they were often they're probably I'm sure you've been discovering through all these that they're they laid the groundwork for so much of his world for the past 20 years.
Yeah, they're absolutely a linchpin. It sounds like Tom very much is as well.
Yeah.
And I know that Tom and Neal were both real gear pedal heads
yes.
too.
Yes.
So another thing they had in common.
100%.
Did Tom recommend Neal, or did he play something for you? And what made you want Neal to play on your records?
I already knew Neal's stuff. I already thought he was super cool, so there was no recommendation necessary. And he, like Neal for me, was like he's a pretty unique dude in that he was like this kind of cool singer-songwriter who had this like career in France, and there was a lot of like mystery and romance around him. And then he had become this like kind of ridiculously awesome in-demand side guitar guy. And I don't know if anyone has that combo on their resume. So there was no recommendation necessary. I think Tom just mentioned it when we were making Tripper, and I was like, yeah, get him in here. And he was just such a cool guitar player too, because he was obviously amazing and had physical gifts in that realm, but also was a songwriter, so understood songs, so could come in and was just with the utmost of sensitivity play these guitar solos that like supported the story of the song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories about those recording sessions when he'd come down and layer in a track?
I mean, I've been thinking about it all day and all morning of sort of just like, do I have stories? And in a kind of an awesome way, they all bleed into one, because every time he would drive to LA from Ventura in his truck. It all like was kind of like felt like the same day, but it was over the course of 10 years and multiple sessions. He would always just drive in, park in Tom's driveway in his pickup truck, come and just in like 2 hours just play the most beautiful stuff you've ever heard. So it was always, he was kind of workman-like in a way. It wasn't like some crazy session that we spent 8 days on or something. It was but I sort of liked that about him too. It was sort of, he had sort of a working class, very New Jersey ethic with that. So it was, yeah, I remember one time him bringing a new guitar, and I have a terrible visual memory, and I'm not a gearhead, so I don't remember what kind of guitar it was, but it was a guitar he'd purchased on eBay, and it was it had the picture of the previous owner in it holding the guitar proudly. He'd purchased it, and it like came from Detroit or something, and he was very excited that there was also, was very excited that there was a Christmas tree in the background of the photograph too. It was a photo from like the 70s. Yeah, that's a distinct memory that I have of one of those.
That's awesome. I feel like I have a recollection of reading something about this guitar, and it was like very much used in like a church band. So
yes, that was it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I'm sure someone else maybe has that story too. I'm paraphrasing it horribly. It was actually an incredible story when he told it, and now I'm not remembering it.
Yeah, that's very cool. We'll yeah, I think just that in itself is really cool that he was able to like track down the owner. And I don't know if he tracked down the owner, but yeah, a little bit of history. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And on Tripper, he's also credited as playing percussion, which I think is interesting because everyone knows Neal as a guitarist, but he also played all these other instruments. So I'm not sure exactly what he was playing, but it's neat that it was beyond that.
Neal and Tom and I all shared a similar obsession with shakers. And Tom and Neal would call it Shake Appeal, like the Stooges song. So I'm pretty sure that Neal did some Shake Appeal on that. Like he and Tom like in the studio together playing shakers, and probably me too. So I don't remember what percussion he played, but I'm going to give you about a 99% guarantee that it was shakers of some kind.
Right on. So Eric, you chose to record Feathers for Bakersfield for the tribute album, which is from the album Sweeten the Distance, which was produced by Tom. And I just love your version. It's so beautiful. So let's take a quick listen.
You wanna know why she had to go. You're not the only one who's looking for an answer. If she could tell you what you want to know, you wouldn't be here at all. So go and ask her. You wouldn't see nothing until it turns around and leaves you. You see it coming until it finally catches up with you. But the same is true for everyone. There's some things you can't walk away from. She's not your lover, don't pick up the phone. There's someone else already there to lay beside her. You waited long enough, now go on home. You wait tomorrow, but you'll still feel just as tired and alone. You wouldn't see nothing until it turns around and leaves you. You see it coming until it finally catches up with you. But the same is true for everyone. There's some things you can't walk away from. Walk away from. She sings the same song every night, a dark and empty stretch of Highway 99. Her arm's been broken by the sun. she needs some rain. You wouldn't see nothing until it turns around and leaves you. You see it coming until it finally catches up with you. But the same is true for everyone. There's some things you can't walk away from. Walk away from.
That was amazing. And you recorded this entire thing yourself, right?
I did, yeah.
Wow. And you play all the instruments, and I assume you recorded at home?
Yeah, I recorded it in my guest bedroom in LA, just looking out onto the back patio. And yeah, and it was like a construct of pandemic times. And I was like, I always do a ton in that room, but I had, I had made an entire Fruit Bats album in there, and then my Smashing Pumpkins cover album, and that had become like this little space that before was just the guest bedroom and the like do little things in there. But so I think my Feathers for Bakersfield was after a pretty like fertile time. Like I had gotten to know that weird little room after a while, after being locked in there for 6 months or however long it was. I can't remember anything these days.
Right. Well, let's take a quick listen of Neal's version of Feathers for Bakersfield now.
You wanna know why she had to go. You're not the only one who's looking for an answer. If she could tell you what you want to know, you wouldn't be here at all. So go and ask her. You ain't seen nothing until it turns around and leaves you. You see it coming until it finally catches up with you. But the same is true for everyone. There's some things you can't walk away from. She's not your lover, don't pick up the phone. There's someone else already there to lay beside her. You waited long enough, now go on home. You'll wake tomorrow, but you'll still feel just as tired and alone. You ain't seen nothing until it turns around and leaves you. You see it coming until it finally catches up with you. But the same is true for everyone. There's some things you can't walk away from. Walk away from. She sings the same song every night. A dark and empty stretch of Highway 99. Her heart's been broken by the sun, and when she needs some rain, it never comes. for everyone. There's some things you can't walk away from. Walk away from. Walk away from. You can't walk away from.
So, Eric, how was your experience recording the song, and how did you prepare for it?
First of all, there was like the whole process of picking from a gigantic pile of songs. And then for a while, I think Bob Weir was going to have that song, which is really funny because I love Bob Weir and he's like my hero. So I was like, he can have whatever he wants and I'll do whatever. But that one, I mean, I don't know if anyone ever told, this is another weird Neal story, which was like that this is like Neal's maybe 9 years older than me. So he's like even from a slightly different era, but he was like, has anyone ever talked about how he was a member of like the Graham Parsons fan club or something?
No.
And again, I'm just like, Tom probably knows this story better. I'm coming in with just the worst sixth-hand anecdotes here, but Neal was a member of some kind of like a Graham Parsons fan club, but this was like in the 80s or something, before the rediscovery of Graham Parsons, I would say, on a large scale. And of course, way pre-internet. So it was the type of thing where he had to like go to some dude's house in Tampa who had like a collection of Graham Parsons VHS tapes that they would watch. And it was essentially like a fan club. But I always so basically, long story short, is Neal's kind of like SoCal country bona fides went back really far, even though he's like a rock dude from New Jersey. He really like was into that stuff before anybody else was. So, and Feathers for Bakersfield just feels like such a Graham and Emmylou song to me, and just handled with such beauty and care. Such a California song. So that was always like one of my favorite sides of him. So, and it felt very coverable too, where like I could sort of do something with it, keep true to it, but give it my own spin. It was just a language I knew, I think.
Yeah. Well, you definitely, did a really incredible tribute. And it's interesting that you are talking about Graham and Emmylou, because I believe Amanda Shires does the harmonies on this song. So that's like a really sweet compliment. They, sang together really beautifully. And that is a great story that he was in this fan club. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a sequel to this interview where I speak with Tom and or somebody who knows the story better. But it's a pretty hilarious story. It just involves a young teenage Neal going into some dude's house in Tampa, which sounds really kind of sketchy now. But
wow, yeah, I want to see those videotapes too. As a big Graham fan,
me too. Whatever those may be, I'm not even sure. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, a little bit of background about that song, and also kind of an interesting segue. There's an interview in No Depression magazine, which is, obviously an Americana kind of covering publication, with Neal about Sweeten the Distance, and right after it was released. And he told the story of writing Feathers for Bakersfield, and he actually wrote it in his head while driving from Ventura to Sacramento, like the day before the Sweeten the Distance session started. So he felt like he needed one last song, and the first time he played it was like the next morning for Tom and the guys that he was tracking with, and he didn't know if it would work, but obviously it did. And here we are. So yeah, it's just like, I think it's a very magical song, and I really enjoy your version of it.
That I didn't actually know that story, and it makes complete. It has a very like, and obviously he mentions Bakersfield in it too, so it gets in your brain, but it doesn't feel like he's not singing about some ancient Buck Owens Bakersfield. It feels very like just contemporary, that sort of drive that I've come to know very well between like LA and the Bay Area, or LA and Sacramento, or something, which is like pretty boring, like on the grand scheme of things, but there's still always something a little weird and romantic about it for me too, as dreary as it can be. But yeah, it feels like, even though he's actually singing about Highway 99 and that, which would be the road like through Fresno and stuff, I guess. But it feels very like I-5 to me, just like trying to get up to Oakland or something. And yeah, it has I write while driving a lot, which very safely, mind you. I'm not like writing anything, but with the voice memo or something. So I love a real driving song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Neal has a lot of stories too in podcasts and interviews about just listening to music and driving. So that's obviously a very powerful place to hear something or think of something. I think it's something about the rhythm of the road.
Yeah, I don't. I actually barely listen to music at home. I can't. It's very hard for me to listen to music stationary. I mean, I do, but yeah, driving, that's often my best excuse to listen to a bunch of music. And I do a lot of driving, so yeah.
Right. Yes. Same. On that note, you have been, a musician for a very long time, and you've been on the road a lot. So how do you take care of yourself while you're on the road?
That's a good question. I mean, I haven't been on the road like long stretches for a while, so I don't even remember. I don't know. I'm a pretty moderate and temperate and tempered person, so and just after this, you just have to pace yourself after this long. So I don't know. Like the thing that gets me on the road is like, it's not so much like the driving or the travel. It's we Fruit Bats, we play like 90-minute sets, and I'm just singing like as loud as possible for 90. That's always the thing that gets me. So vocal rest is good. Hydration, the usual. Pacing yourself.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Hydration is very, very important and something we often forget about.
Yeah, I do. And I have to like really force myself to do it.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about what the mission of the Neal Casal Music Foundation means to you?
I mean, it's like, between, like you were saying, just mental health in music is and the arts is it's a thing, because it's it's sort of a lethal combination of people who are probably naturally hardwired sensitive and these kind of very electric personalities who are like sort of living on the outer fringes of the universe, sometimes emotionally and otherwise, and of course able to tap themselves into these magical realms too. But that often comes with a side of depression and craziness and for some people substance abuse and whatever. So it's like we need these people around, and like we need them to be weird and dark sometimes too. So yeah, I think like I'm probably digressing off onto some tangent here, but just saying that like yeah, we need a crop of weird depressives to sing songs to us, but we need to keep them alive. So I don't know if that's a weird answer, but yeah.
Well, you're right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is, listeners channel, their own feelings through their music, and the people making it often like have to feel really hard to constantly be like digging in, and that can take its toll for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. Eric, what are your favorite songs of yours that Neal played on?
I mean, all of them, which I could probably list like on two hands or something, but it's like he plays a solo on a song called Shivering Fawn.
something to hang his hopes on.
That might have been maybe the first thing he played on, but we were doing a lot of like direct guitars, and he channeled some kind of very like David Gilmour kind of vibe on that one, which is really, really cool. But he's also on Banishment song on that record, which actually Dave Schools messaged me, was like listening to that song and was like, was that Neal? And I was like, yep. And he said, I recognize the patience, which I thought was a cool way of describing his playing.
Never look him in the eye. This is the last advice you ever get from me.
On my song My Sweet Midwest on Absolute Loser, and does like a totally different thing, and just plays this like such amazing kind of like Heartland kind of Mike Campbell-y guitar or something. You know, he could kind of like he spoke all those languages really well, like what sort of was just always very big-eared, as they say, as far as like what the song needed.
Home is home.
And I'm going to call out one of my favorites, which is Mandy from Mohawk. And I think that's like a really primo example of his playing, because it's like, it just starts out like a very subtle, guitar line that you don't even think about until you're like, wow, this is like so beautiful. And then you're like, oh, it's Neal. So that's
yeah.
Fun.
And that's the last thing he did with me in the last day that I saw him too.
Till after in the latter day, I'd say thank you, sorry it took so long to say. I pray that you found some kind of home, because it's for me I'm still out in the
yeah, so that one, I think of him often when I hear that. That's definitely the most special one of all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Eric, do you have any other stories or memories about Neal that you'd like to share?
No, I mean, I think that's like, yeah, it is amazing. It keeps dawning on me how like the actual amount of hours we spent in the studio together was so minimal, and how much stuff we got out of it. So yeah, it seems very epic, but it's a testament to how well he could just kind of come in and just be a total workhorse.
Yeah. Well, I think I have told you this, but one of the last times that I saw Neal, I was like, "Hey, your record Gold Past Life had just come out," and I was like, "Which songs did you play on?" And he said Mandy and I think it's Gold Past Life.
Yeah, Gold Past Life.
Yeah, and I was like, it's like such a beautiful record. And he was like, "Yeah, it's incredible." So he really loved it too.
I know, he was always so many people. I do talk to so many people, because we came from overlapping worlds, but also divergent worlds, and like he brought so many people from his world who were like fans of his bands and stuff, who maybe wouldn't have discovered my music otherwise, have said like, Neal sent me. So I get that a lot.
I can fill in the Graham Parsons story.
Oh my God!
Apologies for the construction going on, but
that's okay.
What happened was Neal and I were obsessed with Graham Parsons. So when Neal's dad for a while lived in Florida, and we heard about this place called Graham's Place. It actually was a hostel, and it's still there. If you look up Graham's Place Hostel, it's there, and it was run by a guy that Neal became really good friends with. Like you said, he was older than Neal. His name was Mark Holland, and he was just a huge Graham fan. And he'd spent time traveling around Europe and stayed in hostels all the time. So he decided to create a hostel in Tampa, where he lived, that was a Graham Parsons themed hostel. And so he had all this memorabilia in it, and it was really special. And it wasn't so much a fan club, but they had like a fanzine, like a newsletter, so that there was always, I have one still. It's in all my, I have one, and Neal had a whole pile of them, and the stuff that he left behind, these little like mimeographed fanzines that they used to give him and send to me as well, Mark. And there was his friend, close friend, Brenda, became one of Neal's really close friends, and she lived out in the Joshua Tree. And I hate to say this, and tragically, they both died of suicide.
Oh man.
Yeah. Mark in 2007, and Brenda must have been a couple years after that. And Brenda's death really affected Neal too. But because he was really close to them, they would come to shows. We saw them quite a bit in those years. And when you mentioned that, I was like, damn, I haven't thought about that in a while.
Well, the way I described it, I feel bad now, just being like, yeah, it was like some weird dude's house or something. But I think Neal kind of described it that way jokingly, and was like, I could have been murdered. Like the beginning of it, of just like it was more the funny thing of like, back in those, now it's like some weird person on a Reddit forum or something, but Neal's just like, yeah, I was like this young handsome kid just going into some possible mass murderer's house, but it obviously all worked out great, and they all became friends.
Yeah, there was a friend of ours who had a record store, like who had tons of bootlegs and stuff like that. And he was like, oh yeah, that guy, Mark Holland, like he's got everything Graham's ever done. I want a recording of Graham vomiting in the desert in 1971. He's got it.
Wow.
We used to say that for years. We really went through a Graham phase. Actually, if you look it up, if you Google it, Mark Holland, Graham Parsons film, you can still see this. I think on he made a film called The Legend of the Grievous Angel, and it was just like a bunch of weird Graham footage that he somehow found and crammed together, and that's the VHS tapes that Neal was talking about. But if you look up that, I think it's still out there. I think you can find it.
I'm definitely gonna watch that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. That was amazing. We were obsessed with Graham for a long time.
Yeah,
I still am.
And why not?
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks, you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by Backline, the music industry's mental health and wellness resource hub. Launched in 2019, Backline gives artists, crews, and their families quick and easy access to mental health and wellness resources. Backline provides individuals with case management and offers virtual support groups as well as yoga, meditation, and breath work. To donate, learn more, or get in touch for personalized care, visit backline.care. That's BACKLINE.CARE.
Thanks for listening to Highway Butterfly, the stories of Neal Casal. Tune in next week to hear more from the artists who made this tribute album a reality. Highway Butterfly, the songs of Neal Casal is out on November 12th. All album net proceeds go to the Neal Casal Music Foundation. You can pre-order the album and learn more at nealcasalmusicfoundation.org.